Hey folks, David Stordy here. Hope you all are having a great day. I know I am. Let's take a look at this finally. This is the Magic Game Night box set. Play Magic with 2 to 5 players right out of the box. Now, I did an unboxing video of this and forgot to hit record, but such is life. But I still wanted to give you guys a view of what's in here and my opinions about this and why I bought it. So I did not buy this in order to get into Magic. Magic the Gathering is a game which I played for a whole bunch of years, and which I stopped playing a few years back. The main reason I stopped playing has nothing to do with all of the woke takes by Wizards of the Coast employees on Twitter or any of the problems with tournaments or any of that stuff. It just became too expensive for me to justify playing it anymore. And they had really ramped up how quickly they were coming out with expansions. It really became expensive and difficult to keep up with the standard play of the game. Even years before I just outright stopped playing, I had mostly shifted into a mode where I was playing legacy style decks or type 1.5 decks, however you want to call those, rather than standard or type 2 play, which is where you're playing with the newer cards. And that way I didn't really have to worry about constantly trying to make new decks out of whatever new cards were coming out. I could just continually kind of work on my legacy decks, and that was quite a bit of fun. But for this is why I really got this, is because it has 5 decks in it, 5 low-powered decks in a box with everything that you need to play. And so I can put this on my shelf, and whenever somebody comes over and wants to play Magic, like one of my friends comes over and, hey, you want to play some Magic? I have a box set with decks ready to go. They're all equally powered. They're all balanced with each other, and I'll show you some of the decks as we get in here. They're all made to work with and against each other. So there's some cards in here that may not be that useful if you were to put them in your own pre-made, because they involve like destroying an artifact, and you don't know if your opponent's going to have artifacts, so it's better to have a card with more general use. Well, in this case, all the decks have artifacts, so artifact destruction actually is pretty useful. Normally you wouldn't put that in a deck, but it works really, really good for this kind of play, and it's really fun to sit around and have a 5v5 play style with Magic the Gathering, and that's kind of what I wanted there. So this is a way for me to make Magic the Gathering permanent, for me to have a version of the game that we can just play without having to worry about keeping up decks. Of course, I still have a lot of my old decks, but if somebody were to come over and play, if I were to hand them one of my decks and they don't know what's in it or how to play it, obviously they're not going to play at a high level. In this case, no one really needs to play at a high level. All the decks are pretty low powered. So let's take a look at what's in it. In this way, I can avoid giving them money in order to play the game. I can play the game basically as far as I want in the future, like with my kids if I want, and I don't have to worry about giving Wizards of the Coast any money if they don't like me. If they don't want my money, they really don't have to have it. And I know that Hasbro got money for me buying this, but this was only like $15 or something when I bought it, so really not that much money considering people will spend hundreds of dollars a year, sometimes thousands, in order to buy the cards. So it comes with a little instruction manual for people who are new to playing the game, and indeed I think the set would be pretty good for people who are new to playing the game, but I don't necessarily recommend you get into Magic the Gathering as a collectible card game. It's got some good art in it, some basic explanations for how to play, the order of what you're doing here. Probably a little bit of what's in each deck is here, so you can look through here and you can see there's a Goblin Motivator. They have all of the cards listed for each deck in here. Makes it really easy to see what you're going to work with if you are a returning player, and you can pick out a deck that maybe appeals to you. And then they tell you how to read the cards, how to set up and play. So good little rule book here. Get you started. Obviously, it's not going to have a lot of the more intricate rules, like if you were to play in a tournament or have some really wacky mechanics that are going on. But I think that's kind of the fun of Magic, is you read the card to figure out how to use the mechanics. They're all there. Get this little cardboard thing here, which has a bunch of +1/+1 tokens, as well as a little place for you to keep your life total thing. It comes with a bunch of tokens, and these tokens are two-sided, so some of them are like Goblin Knight, some of them are Goblin something else, Zombie Knight, right? Zombie Goblin, Thopter Goblin. So you get all these all of these tokens that you can use and just use for the various decks. These were distributed among the decks before, but that's kind of useful. That way you don't have to use like quarters or something to be your 1/1 tokens. So a different colored D20 for each deck to keep track of your life total, which is okay. The D20 is not ideal because some decks you can gain more life than 20, things like that, and it's also takes you time to go, okay, I'm going from 17 down to 16, find it there. But it works fine if you don't have D20s lying around. This includes the D20s, so you can have the dice ready to go here, and you have a nice little bin to keep those little tokens in. 5 different colored decks, and I like that each deck includes something like this on the front. Tells you what to expect from the deck: speed, creatures, spells, complexity. Oh, I like playing with spells. I'll do this spells deck. Oh, I really like it to be pretty simple. That looks like a good deck for me. And it tells you even in this card how to play. Oh, begin, main phase, combat, main phase, in. So it tells you like your order of operations here. Untap, draw, main phase, combat, main phase, in, and you can just keep that there. So we have one for each color, and each deck also has a theme. So this red deck is really all about spells and goblins. More goblins! So there's lots of little goblin things and little goblin warriors. All this kind of stuff is here. And then every single deck has usually some way to deal with other opponent's creatures. You do have like some 4 damage to target creature. That could destroy a lot of creatures in the other decks because most of the creatures are not so big that they can't be destroyed by 4 damage. Now that might be something that you would normally put in your red deck, but it's fine if you're dealing with 5 other low power decks that are primarily focused around creatures. So even that card says like spells, it's still a very creature heavy deck. We get over to the white deck, and you can see it's more focused on speed and creatures and spells, and it's just simple to play. It has a really good mana curve. It did include some cards that I was really glad they included, like Sarah Angel. Here's more tokens, so we can probably take those tokens out. But there's a couple of Sarah Angels in there, which are great. These are just a really efficient card, very classic card. A Subjugator Angel. I feel like it's not a white deck without some angels in it. We have a lot of good stuff from here. And some good spells, some creature destroy, some knightly valor kind of stuff. So this is more around like knight creatures and a couple angels. So if you kind of like that tribal feeling, you have some angels and some knights. It includes Militant Angel here, which has flying and lifelink. It comes into the battlefield, create a number of 2/2 white knight creatures with vigilance equal to the number of opponents you attacked this turn. Now this, in a 1v1 situation, not as good as in a 1v5 situation. So there's a lot of cards that are included in here that are good in multi-opponent play, like if you were to sit down with 3 or 4 or 5 friends. The black deck, you can see it's more around spells, and it says it's quite complex. It's a zombie deck. And so it does involve pulling creatures out of the graveyard or sending creatures to the graveyard, which is a little more complex play style than, say, green. When we get to green, green is pull out creatures and attack with them. Like really simple stuff here. So you get lots of stuff here. Here we go. Rah Hulk Menace. When Rah Hulk enters the battlefield, return up to X, target zombie cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of opponents you have. Again, this would not be that good in a 1v1 situation, but in a 1v5, all of a sudden, this card is really, really useful and really fun to play with. All of these decks have some things that are really set up for this multi-opponent play, and I really appreciate that because it used to be such a fun way to play Magic back when I was younger. This blue one is really just about flying creatures. So you have some Sphinxes and Inspired Sphinx. You get some various flying creatures, some Djinn. It's really all about having flying creatures and a couple of spells. This is very different from the blue style of decks that I always like to play, which involve like doppelgangers and counter spells. There's no counter spells really in this, and that kind of stuff, rather than say flying creatures specifically. But that's what they went for. And so if you want a deck that's kind of about flying creatures, then you have a blue deck. A little bit different style of playing blue, but it could be that really complicated control style blue decks are just not really going to be appropriate for this. They might be too high powered. So I'm okay with the creatures. It's better for fun and for beginners. And you can see with the green deck, they tell you this is about creatures. Let's take a look at some of these creatures because they give you some big ones. So they give you this one right here, Avatar of Growth. Costs one less for each opponent you have. So normally it's 6 mana if you have 4 opponents. Well, it's only 2 mana. So 2 mana for 4/4, that's not bad. It does make your opponents gain land though, so it's still not that great. It's a 4/4 with trample for a reduced cost only in the situation of this thing. This would actually be a really bad card, I think, for 1v1 play. It doesn't seem like very good value, but you know. But we also get the Galta Primal Hunger. We get this crazy 12/12 dinosaur. And this is a card that costs less for, you know, the number of power of all the creatures you control. So it could potentially be free if you have 12 power on the field. It's not that hard to have 12 power, but this is kind of a win more card. You already have to have some creatures out. But if you can summon 12 power worth of creatures in one turn, you could potentially get that guy out for free. That's pretty cool. You do have a good sorcery for looking for some cards, and you can draw cards equal to power of a creature that you pull. You do get a Gigantosaurus. Do you get 2 of them? No, just 1. Another thing I'll say about these decks is they primarily give you 1 or 2 of the cards. So they give you 2 Thrashing Bronodons. They give you 2 Seek the Wilds. Occasionally they give you 3. They give you 2 Llanowar Elves. That's a classic card. So a lot of classic cards in these. A lot of cards that I remember from, you know, ye olden days. So they'll give you usually 2 of those cards. That's not ideal. If you were going to build a deck, you'd probably want 4 of each card to really control the odds of you pulling those cards out. But, you know, such is how it is. That's the way that you really want to set up a deck like this for beginners so they can see lots of different cards. And honestly, for veterans like me, I think it's more fun to see lots of different cards and have a little more randomness in the play. Keeps the power pretty low when the odds are not stacked up with 4 really good cards in the deck. So anyway, I think it's a really cool little box set. It'll help me to avoid, you know, to be able to play Magic without having to buy into the constant power creep, the constant release of new products from Wizards of the Coast and from, at this point, Hasbro. And in general, not feel too bad about avoiding, be able to play the game and also avoid having to give money to people who maybe don't like me very much. So there it is. Magic the Gathering Game Night. You can check it out. I think it actually would be good for people who are looking to get into this. And after this investment, if you don't want to buy more cards, you basically have a permanent set of cards you can play against other people for fun. And that's pretty cool too. That's exactly why I bought it. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh yes, I do have books. There's my newest fantasy book. There is my newest horror book. This one has a lot of people surprised with the ending. Has a great twist ending. Both of these are 99 cents on Amazon, so you can check them out and read them hopefully. And I'll see you guys next time.